Oh, dude, I just created Castlevania Doom in the NES era and forced the ESRB into being about 10 years early. Exercise in minimalism it may be, this game is amazing and no one can tell me otherwise. Greetings, everyone. This is the Game Dev Snek, bringing to you another piece of N-D-X-Cellence. And today I'm covering the extremely meta title Game Dev Tycoon. Released late 2012, developed by a pair of brothers, Patrick and Daniel Klug. Apologies if I mispronounced that. The two together forming Green Heart Studios. Pretty sure that's not a Nep reference, but hey, who knows. This game follows the path of the garage programmer entering into the realm of game development in the early pioneer days of PC gaming of the early 80s. Your options start off fairly limited on the onset, but you'll soon find yourself swimming in opportunities. So let's dive in earnest. As I jokingly mentioned, Game Dev Tycoon embraces a less is more philosophy, with simple cartoony graphical stylings. The characters are presented in a stout, blocky style that makes the game look friendly and inviting. That simplicity also allows the mobile versions to look more or less the same as its PC port. The version I'll be playing for this review is actually the Steam iteration of the game, which, barring a click for a tap, is the same experience in all other respects. Also fun are the way each of the maps get decorated, clad in various pop culture references and symbols. Go ahead and see if you can identify all of them as you progress from a garage to an office to a full-on corporate suite. Much like games like Dwarf Fortress, a lot of your experience is going to be first-hand storytelling, so the graphics likely shouldn't make or break anything for you. The general gameplay interface is simple and streamlined too, with tiny colored orbs representing progress made in various technical fields and your programmer's stats reflected in simple numeric fashion. The music is kind of ambient, more to set the mood of your new career in churning out games. The sound effects stick out more to me here, with pleasant beeps and boops for interface and pleasant series of low-pitched thuds as progress is made on whatever task you're presently taking. The game is, in a word, extremely pleasant from an aesthetic standpoint. Credited for composition are Alexander Lisenkov and Jack White, who have all done an excellent job in terms of the sound design. The gameplay is, well, what you might expect. You click and occasionally click and drag in order to custom tailor the specifics for the design of your in-game game-making decisions in the game. You then proceed to, well, make games, in-game. You start by giving a title, a genre, and a theme to your game. And more options like content ratings and others will become available as time goes on, including being able to pick two genres, such as combining separate genres of action and RPG into an action RPG. And then you delve into a series of decisions on how the game will be made. You'll have graphs representing the amount of time and resources you plan on dedicating to things like the level and the world design, balanced out against things like graphic and musical focus, and more than that. Once a game hits market, you'll be judged, often harshly, by 4 big-name game magazines that totally don't represent any real brands whatsoever. Obviously, you want to shoot for a straight 10, but don't be surprised if your first few games hit 6s or 7s until you get a feel for how the game matches its various criterion together. Game Dev Tycoon may seem like a regular business sim on its surface, but you might find that under that veneer lies a complex puzzle game that contains many fiddly bits that you, as game dev and maybe even tycoon, need to combine together in various ways for maximum results. And once you release a game, you can then follow it up with a game report, which will unlock additional hints for dealing with games of similar theme, genre, and even platform combinations that it was released on. Lucky for you, even if you dive headfirst into bankruptcy and a game over, you will get to keep these hints unlocked from previous reports in a sort of New Game Plus mode, meaning that it's totally fine to try wild and crazy combinations. I mean, if you're okay with going bankrupt repeatedly, which will probably happen as a matter of course, but hey, losing's fun, right? In fact, let's do some Game Dev Tycoon story time. Being that you don't see any kind of visual from the games that you make and have to take the reviewer scores and sales figures as granted, this is the sort of game that a lot of its appeal will hinge on using your imagination to write the story of your studio as you go along. Like in one run, where I was struggling in the early phases of the game, and was approaching ruination in the late SNES/Genesis era, and in a fit of desperation, I decided to make the most brain-dead title that I could. A safe sports sim title for every available platform, that being the copyright-safe versions of the aforementioned consoles and the PC. I literally just titled it Sports in all caps in hopes that just selling out would save my company. And darned if it didn't work, too. Selling out worked big time with the Sports series, all likewise in caps, being a long-running annual title, with increasingly frustrated titles like More Sports, Yet More Sports, Oh no, Not More Sports, and so on. Likewise, the increasingly strangely titled efforts of a musical action game, Moonlight Dance, ended up being a huge smash hits in their own right. I even created the long-running Loss of Life series, a play on an obscure Dreamcast title, Lack of Love, which became far more popular in-game than the game it was based on in the real world ever got. And let this be a lesson, potential tycoons, always double-check your created game logs before making a sequel. I ended up making 3 different games entitled Loss of Life 6. Whoops. On the other hand, not all of my original efforts ended up being huge hits. Horror spoof, Local Antagonism, use with the source if the joke isn't obvious yet, never crested above an average score of 6 out of 10, and a game series I affectionately named after my good friend Itaku took a meteoric nosedive in score from its first installment's 9 out of 10 to a 3 out of 10 when the sequel, subtitled 108 FMVs, hit store shelves. The third installment, No More FMVs, meanwhile, was the series' first 10 out of 10 smash hit success. That kinda makes me wonder if the game checks the title for certain words, but that could also be bad luck. I mean, who doesn't love grainy 600 by 400 FMVs? And before anyone asks, no, I was not creative enough to come up with the idea of making a spoof of the game Snake. I must admit that only hit me as I was writing the script. That aside, how could the game be improved upon? Well, I thought it would be quite entertaining to add some ethically dubious options to the game, like being able to make on-disc DLC or abusive customer hostile options. Greenheart Games, sort of, beat me to this idea with a rather brilliant satirical April Fool's article, which I will link in the description below. It's really worth reading. Sadly, these were never actually implemented into the game, which I think would make a legitimately interesting risk-reward style of gameplay. I mean, how many people who disparage EA would stoop to their level to keep the lights on, I wonder? That aside, it's weird to me how you have to unlock individual topics. Yes, I know a huge core element of the game hinges on this, but why does it take so long? And they unlock in a very particular sequence when you purchase them. None of the topics leave rather broad ideas like making a medieval times game or a werewolf game or a historic themed game. So why invest so much time and research points into these? And then you have to wait and unlock the ability to make sequels for your games. And that in itself is pretty bizarre. Then none of the reviews or context around them ever compares one title to the other that preceded it. Kind of a missed opportunity there, I think. Lastly, the game uses a hidden scoring system, meaning the primary motivation for you as the player is a high score, which is largely hidden unless you seek it out, and the formula for which is unknown outside of cracking the source code. Those scores will eventually begin deflating as you play the game, even if your company stays eternally wealthy. To illustrate this, during a successful run, I got about 100 years into the future, past the point where any new consoles or the like debut. I was making my own proprietary consoles and hardware alongside my own games as a full-on corporate dev, and it became impossible to get a score from the reviewers above 6s. An eternal play mode or an experimental mode really wouldn't go amiss. But in truth, I'm just nitpicking at this point. Fun story, the game devs themselves found out just how cheeky they can really be. When the game initially went live, they set up their own torrent feed for a pirated version of their own game, wherein the pirated version would be plagued by pirates pirating the in-game game devs' games. Try saying that 10 times fast. That is beautifully poetic, and so many people didn't even know that they were admitting to pirating the game when they complained about it online. That's something else. They eventually added pirate mode as a super challenge mod to the main base game as well, but I freely admit I'm not hardcore enough to try that one for myself just yet. All in all, I found myself whiling away hours upon hours with Game Dev Tycoon. I love trying different combinations and seeing what my studio could really do. Trying contract work and publisher work gave me interesting, if sometimes flat-out impossible, challenges to undertake. Trying to get by without a publisher is a challenge unto itself. Taken as a whole, I think the game is solid and fun, even if it does fall into that realm of casual time waster sort of game. While Greenheart Studios is busy at work on their next title, Tavern Keeper, I do hope they give strong consideration to someday making a Game Dev Tycoon 2, all these lessons taken into consideration. And this has been the Tycoon Snek. Thanks for joining me here today, and I hope you choose to do so every week by tapping the subscribe and bell icons down below. Drop a comment letting me know how your game projects went, and don't forget to tap that like button, as it really does help. Join me here Mondays and Fridays every week for obscure reviews, N-D-X-Cellence, Snek Talks, and more. You can also mosey over to the new Tomodachi Bros Review Podcast Mirror YouTube channel, links available in every video description. I hope you continue to tune in for more like this, and I'll see you there. Hey everyone, this is the Hipster Snek. I just wanted to bring to everyone's attention that I'm holding a bit of a contest. You see, the channel's rapidly approaching 100 subscribers, which is a milestone I never dreamed I would hit within the first year of the channel's activity. That in mind, I am opening a poll both on my YouTube comment section under the page itself and on the Twitter at Hipster Snek, where you can vote for a game you want me to review for the 100 subscriber special. The only limitation is it has to be something that I have a means of playing, and it can't be something that gets me banned off YouTube for having played it. That said, go wild. Whatever game you want me to cover for the 100 sub special, I will do when that time comes. So be sure to leave your vote either in the comment section on my YouTube channel or on the pinned tweet at Hipster Snek. When the subtotal crests 100, that will be the time that video is the next to go live. That'll give you something to look forward to, and I will see you there.